Hey there, this is Derek Murphy. I don't know if you've been following me or you are on my email list, but I sent out a lot of emails this week to tell people that my guerrilla publishing course is open for a limited time. What I have just done on Facebook in my guerrilla publishing group was do like a 2-hour Ask Me Anything where people ask me for feedback on their books and their websites to figure out why their books aren't selling. So I thought I would make this video to summarize that conversation into 7 deadly sins that most amateur authors make. And by sins, I don't really mean these are like the dragons that you're going to have to destroy if you want to be successful as a self-publishing indie author. Unfortunately, these are really super basic things that should be easy to fix. Like for me, I see it, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I have a background in literature and cover design, so I can fix a lot of these problems myself, but it also took me a long time. The problem is usually mindset, because if you know that these are problems and if you're willing to fix the problems, they're not that hard to fix. Either you have to learn how to do them or you have to pay somebody else to do them for you, but they're not challenging problems. It's not a mystery why books aren't selling. It's always very predictable, obvious reasons of why what you're doing isn't selling books. So I'm going to do this video. If you have questions, because I think it's live, I think you can ask and I will be able to see it and answer. But I'm really just going to go through this list of 7 mistakes that newbie authors make. And this is one that I made today based on the conversation I had on Facebook. So it's not the end all of all book marketing. I have a lot of other strategies for book marketing, but basically these are the things that authors get wrong that they have to fix. And I know this because the last hour or two I've been going through people's websites and Amazon pages. It's always the same things. So it's always different. Like they don't all have the same problems, but they all have at least one of these problems. So if you have some of these problems, this is kind of an easy little self-test to figure out what's wrong with your funnel, why people aren't buying or reading your books, or how you can do better. First one is no obvious genre. So when I click on a book on Amazon, I see their cover, their blurb, and their reviews. But before I read the blurb at all, I just see the title and the cover. So the title has to be intriguing enough and has to contain enough keywords so that I know what the genre is. And that's also what the cover is for. The cover communicates the genre. The emotion is done by colors and also to some extent subgenre, because, for example, Urban Fantasy Academy books, which is a very select subgenre, not the majority, but maybe a half or 2/3 of those have a very particular blue-purple background with very similar fonts. So I know some people don't like their fonts, their covers to look too generic or cliched, but the faster you communicate your genre to readers, the less time they have to spend looking at your cover, deciding whether or not to click that link and read more about your book. So you want to take all the shortcuts that you can, and one of the easiest shortcuts is a cover that really hits the genre hard. This is kind of true for fiction, nonfiction, although for nonfiction you would focus more on the keywords and benefits. So you would hit the keywords or benefits with the tagline or subtitle immediately, which would hook them enough to want to go down and read the rest of the copy. So that's kind of an easy one to fix, is just probably you didn't choose your title or subtitle right, and you didn't have a cover, even if it's nice looking, just a cover that didn't communicate the genre clearly enough. Or if it's like mixed genre, I didn't know what to do with it. A lot of authors like to put scenes in their book covers, which is the wrong approach. You want genre in your book cover. You want generic genre. You don't want particular scene. In your description, that's where you want to get a little bit more particular of why your book is similar but different or better than. Like you want to make sure you hit all the keywords people are looking for, but also communicate the few differences that make your book unique and interesting. But that's blurb. That's I would consider a sub-tier problem, because if they're not clicking on your cover, if they're not interested, like if your cover, your title, maybe your tagline, if you're running advertising, if that doesn't work, they're never going to click and read your blurb. So the blurb is also super important. That's the thing that makes them buy the book or not. But to get them to even read the blurb, that's cover and title. So you have to have a really obvious genre so readers know. It can't just be like a cool looking book. They're not going to click it unless they're like, this looks interesting, this looks like something I might want to read. You have to be able to communicate that information in the cover, which is why I have so many resources on YouTube about cover design. I'm actually a lot of those are really old, and there's been a lot of changes in cover design the last couple of years. So I think this year I'm going to try to be upping my game. I'll be putting out a lot more tutorials about cover design, especially for the harder stuff, like fantasy. But also, like, I have some trilogies right now I'm going to try to turn into 18 cover series. So that means I have to make 18 different covers. So I might talk a little bit about how to make, a series cover really quickly, or talk a lot about, all those things. But that's the problem number one. The second problem is no book reviews. And it's unfortunate that this is such a big problem, because people come to me and they think they've tried everything to market their book, and actually they've never even begun marketing, because people won't buy the book if it has no reviews or less than 5 reviews. I shoot for more than 10, and even then, more than 10 reviews, it's still kind of like meh. The cover and the blurb still have to be great, but at least that will kill the main obstacle. If you have less than 5 reviews, people won't buy it, even if it has a great cover and a great blurb, or few people will buy it, which means you probably can't justify ad spend cost. So first, I didn't really talk about blurb, but the first one has to have an immediate, obvious genre. The second one, it has to have some reviews. I talk a lot about how to get more book reviews in guerrilla publishing. One of the easier ways to do it is to give out a lot of free books. But you can't even just give away your book for free without at least some reviews, because people don't want it. So you have to build a targeted email list, usually based around a giveaway, to attract the type of audience that might like your book, so that you can give them an advanced reader copy, so that hopefully they'll post some reviews. Until you get some reviews, you can't, that's your problem. You don't know if the cover is good enough or the title is good enough. I probably should have put that at number 1, actually. You have to get some reviews so that you can figure out if everything else is working. Also, the reviews will tell you whether readers like your book. That's a different thing, but if readers don't like your book, that's kind of a problem you can't solve. You can get better, or you can write a different book. Bad reviews either means you are targeting the wrong audience, or you're on accident attracting the wrong audience, probably because you screwed up the targeting, or just you're not clear enough, or the cover attracts the wrong people or something. It could mean that, or it could mean there are significant structural errors in your book, and they give up. They stop reading. Either they never finish your book because they gave up because it was boring, or it wasn't for them, which is great, because at least they started reading your book. That's already a big advantage. Or, what was my other one? Or they finished it and they loved it. So you don't know if people are going to like your book until you start giving your book to the right kind of people. And your first book might not be great, but it might be pretty good. It kind of depends on who you're targeting. So you have to get some reviews so you know your book is good enough, so you have the confidence in the quality of your product to invest in the time and the money to sell the book. It doesn't necessarily mean your book is going to sell really well, but you want to at least clear the hurdle of some people like my book enough to have enjoyed reading the book. Unfortunately, a lot of books out there don't meet this hurdle. And the reason they don't have any reviews is because nobody wanted to tell them their book is good enough. Their book isn't good enough. Their book sucks. Because what a lot of people will do is maybe they'll give out free copies to all their friends and family. And your friends and family, either they're not the right reader, or they don't feel comfortable reviewing, or they just didn't like it very much and they don't know how to tell you, and they don't want to lie for you. You're basically asking people, if you're asking them for a review, or if you're pressuring them for a review and they didn't like it, then they're not going to tell that to you. So you're basically asking them to lie for you, which is why it's weird and uncomfortable. I don't tell my friends or family to buy my books. I build email lists of readers who might like the book, and they do. I write good books. People enjoy them a lot. But I still have to make sure I'm doing all of the other marketing things right. And this is a learning curve. A lot of times I've published with the wrong covers, the wrong blurbs. Sometimes you have to test a lot of things to figure out what isn't working. But until you have reviews, you won't see any conversion. So you know that's the problem. That's an easy, obvious problem that you have to fix. Anyway, so I've been talking for like 3 hours now. Number 1 was no obvious genre. Number 2 was no reviews. Number 3, this is a website thing, because I did a lot of feedback on websites where your website isn't audience specific or clear. Design aside, because you want to have a nicely designed website, a lot of problems with design is there's too many colors, there's too many different fonts, there's too many different things going on. So what you have to do is kind of leave a trail of breadcrumbs and say like, welcome, this is who I am, this is what I write, here's a free book, here's a free chapter of my newest release. You want to lead them on a little bit of a journey, not just dump whatever. But at the top of your website, you probably need some art or a very clear tagline that says, this is what I write for these people, this is who I write for. Because when people land on your site, they're going to read that headline and they're going to see, who is, where am I, why does this matter? You want to promise benefits, whether it's fiction, like sci-fi with daggers, time travel, something, I don't know, or if it's just very clear nonfiction, like how to sell more books, something like that, I could put at the top of one of my websites, would be better than something long like, I don't know, something long and vague. But a lot of people aren't doing that, or they just have a whole wall of text with a whole bunch of different weird taglines and branding things. Or the tagline isn't specific enough, so it doesn't really appeal to everybody. You have to be pretty clear, your words, the keywords, the benefits, and also the art that lets people know and is attractive and makes people feel a certain way. Those are all things you could be doing in the header of your website, which are important. Number 4, still about websites, there's no call to action or order or welcome. You can actually visit, I made a site for my fiction, which is urbanepics.com. It's not perfect, it's not really finished, but I kind of tried to build it the way I think websites should be built. And we're still experimenting with some things, so I don't know necessarily that it's working as well as it could be. We'll probably try some other things. But what you kind of want to do, if readers, if they don't know who you are, if they don't follow you, they don't care about you. You want to have something free or cheap. You want to have some free excerpt or writing with a hook or a tagline. You want to have some kick-ass book covers that catch their attention. And some reviews, and maybe a lot of reviews. I'll talk more about that later, actually. But if a website, like, you have to lead your website visitors on a kind of journey to get them to take the actions that you want. So you want to really focus on, I would focus on opt-ins from my website. I wouldn't focus on book sales from my website, because there's a better chance if I can get them on my opt-in list with a free book or offer, then I can always tell them when I have new book releases. Yeah, so I would do that. Try to get them on your email list, but also on your website, you have to say, like, not just subscribe to my newsletter, but sign up for this free book. Has to have a great cover, has to have a hook, and a couple really short, powerful quotes. This video isn't about taglines, like what do you put on your Amazon description, but I will say, and I've said before, like, for your Amazon description, you need to have your best material at the top. So whether that's a blurb from someone else, there are 3 things I think you need. I've mentioned somewhere. One is credibility, one is the keywords, like what kind of book is this? Credibility is like, this book is good. Keywords are like what it's about. And then there's one other one, hook. So something has to hook their attention and create intrigue. So you have to have those 3 things. If you can do those three things with a shortened blurb from somebody else, that's perfect. But otherwise, you just want to use the one that works the best to get people reading your blurb, to hook their interest. So on your website, you need things kind of like that. And on your opt-in, like where you are giving away your free thing, they won't want it if it's just a free thing. You have to make them want it before they sign up for it, by pre-selling it a little bit with your best reviews or the good blurb. Next one, I'm on number 5. We're doing the 7 deadly sins of that most new authors make, or amateur authors make. I just did like a 2-hour Ask Me Anything Facebook Live on my Guerrilla Publishing group. So this is like some of the stuff that I told all of the authors, because these are common problems that most people have. So these are the things I think you should focus on first if your books aren't selling. So number 5 was not enough blog posts. A lot of people, there's kind of 2 different ways to do this. First, you need the offer. You need your perfect blurb, reviews, and cover. Most authors never get those 3 things right, but if you get those 3 things right, then you have to drive the visibility. There's 2 ways to get the visibility. There's organic, which means you're building good content that shows up, or there's advertising, which means you're paying for the visibility. They're not mutually exclusive. So you can do both of those things. And advertising, it kind of takes some like maintenance, but it's possible to set up advertising so it just runs so that you can be using your time building the content. Building content isn't as direct, but it's more long term. I like to do both. Eventually, I think it'll make more sense for me just to focus on the advertising. But I also, like, you can grow really fast and build really fast with advertising and see your results immediately as long as you have a profitable product. So that's definitely what I would focus on. But in the meantime, you should also be building your platform. A lot of people ask me, like, I don't have any time or money. What can I do to market my book? And there's no solution for that because nobody else is going to do this for you. You have to figure out what this book is worth to you and give it whatever time or money you feel it's worth doing for you. Like, it's authors talk about their book as an investment, and it's definitely not an investment because most authors won't make money with their books, which is why guerrilla publishing is really about publishing cheap and learning fast so that you know how to become profitable without the 3 or 4 year learning curve that most authors go through, or the like $3,000 or $4,000 average that most authors spend on their first book without seeing a result on investment. I try to teach people not to make those mistakes, but there's a lot to learn. So you kind of have to spend either a lot of time learning this stuff and setting it up or paying for advertising, but advertising is not going to work until you learn enough about this stuff to make sure your book is profitable and you have the right cover and the right blurbs and you've done enough of the platform building to get the reviews. But also, platform building doesn't have to be this long ongoing thing. I think you should blog post 4 times a month. I don't personally, I post like random things every couple months, but you should post every week. And you can pre-write a lot of that stuff to have it scheduled. Like, you could do 1 Saturday a month and write 4 articles in a couple of hours. These can be like short 500 words articles. And I talk in some of my other programs about what kind of blog post to write. When you start off, you want a couple personal shares about like why you write or where you write or like your writing process, a couple vulnerable stories about your childhood, and a couple of long excerpts about like your chapter 1 excerpts of your book. Or you can post excerpts like work in progress. This is a cool paragraph I wrote today. Here's the pre-order link. That's the kind of stuff you can be blogging. But you also want to set up 5 or 6 blog posts immediately. So if anyone lands on your blog, you don't want them to look and say, you know, this person never writes anything. You want to have kind of updated material. It's not the most important thing. I would try to blog once a month at least, but when you start, you do want to have 5 or 6 blog posts there so you don't just have an empty blog. And you want to have the right kind of blog post that positions your brand the right way. If you follow me on YouTube, I have a long video on author branding and platform basics that I put out recently based on a talk I did in Edinburgh earlier this year. I'm a fan of blogging, but I also don't actually use it very much. But also, I get a lot of traffic because I've done blogging in the past. I get a lot of traffic because I have an assistant who helps me with articles, which is another option for long-term stuff that you can do. So I think it's important to at least put something on your blog and put the right kind of things. Andrea has a good question. Thanks for that. I'll answer that in a minute. You want to put things on your blog that attract. This is the other big thing, is that most author websites never do anything. They're worthless because they get no traffic. So authors feel like, why should I blog or why should I invest in my author website? It's not getting any traffic. The way to get traffic is with great evergreen organic content with the keywords that match what your readership is searching for. Most authors don't do that. That's basic general SEO, blogging, business stuff. But most authors don't do it. So they have a blog which doesn't have any information which attracts the right readers. So you do want to be blogging intentionally. I have a course, Reach Your Readers, that's about blogging, basically blogging for fiction authors, which somewhere you can find a discount where it's only $27, which is a pretty good deal because it's a pretty solid course on author platform building. My new course, Guerrilla Publishing, is open until tomorrow. That's where I'll give you more help and feedback if you need it. And it goes into a lot more advanced book marketing stuff. But in this video, I'm just trying to go through some common problems that authors have. So the next one, I kind of mentioned before, but this is no credibility. Yeah, this is almost the same as number 2, which was no reviews. But on your website, you want to make sure you're taking some reviews from Amazon and putting them on your website, because if people are on your website, they don't care that you're a fantasy writer. They don't know if you're any good. There's millions of fantasy writers. Are your books any good? They want to know that, and not from you. They want to know it from someone else. So the more testimonials or reviews that you can get early on. If you look at my Urban Epics page, I kind of went overboard, and there's probably a dozen at least shortened blurbs, and they're not book specific. I made sure to pull blurbs or reviews that were just like, this is the best book I've ever read in my life, or something. It's not specific to the details of any one particular book. It just proves that I can write. So people can look at my homepage and be like, a lot of different people said that this guy can write. Maybe I am willing to sign up to get a free book or something. So you have to be making those credibility things on your website, also on your Amazon bio, of course on your book page, your Amazon page where your book is actually there. That's why reviews are so important. But I'm basically saying, even on your Facebook page or your Facebook group or your website, you want to make sure you're hitting that credibility part. They have to like you. Well, first they have to know you, which means you have to show up, your content has to be found. Then they have to like you, and they have to trust you. So those are two different things. Liking you, you have to share a lot of personal, vulnerable things. You basically have to be authentic, which is hard to do. But if you are authentic, you'll attract similarly normal people. Doesn't necessarily mean they will be fans of your work, but if you kind of have to attract people who like the genre you write in, and then also get them to like and trust you enough that they will at least start reading your book because you've told them that it's good and you think that they will like it. But that's a disadvantage because a lot of people, they don't have reviews, they don't have credibility. Stuff with author website design too, the better looking your author website is, that's an easy credibility boost. If you have a nicely designed header at the top, if you have a nicely designed book cover, that's huge for credibility. You can sell a book with a bad cover as long as it hits the genre tropes right. If it's a bad cover, like I've seen, for example, I won't pick names, but Academy books are huge right now. I've seen a lot of Academy book covers. Some of them are not so well designed, but they work really well anyway because more than any other subgenre, Academy has a lot of different genre indicators on the cover that let readers know what kind of book this is. So even if the cover's not great looking, if it looks like an Academy cover, it can still sell really well. But if you don't have a great cover and you don't really know, you're not really hitting the genre, not only are you missing the genre so they're not clicking, but also you're losing credibility immediately, which means you have to make up for it with desire. It's not the right word choice, but you have, like, your blurb would have to be amazing, or you'd have to share a long excerpt, or you'd have to have a lot of reviews or something else to offset that credibility. Like, let's say there's a bar. Let's say that 1 to 10, you have to get people up to a 6 before they'll download a free book, and you have to get people up to an 8 or 9 before they'll pay to read the book. But things like a badly designed website or book, or let's see what else. Anything that's a detractor. Maybe you don't have an author picture on your Amazon page that shows up next to the book. Things like that will put you down in the minus. You'd have to make up for it with extra points somewhere else in your funnel. Oops. There's one more. There's so many things to do with marketing and promotion and visibility, but a lot of them are extra. Like, those things work after you get the basics right. Most authors, unfortunately, they're willing to pay thousands of dollars for book marketing, which won't work because people will take your money without fixing your core issues. And it's difficult unless you're an expert at all the different things, blurbs, covers, platform building. It's difficult to do it all on your own or to see where the problems are, which is why I try to help people when I can. You can join the Guerrilla Publishing program if you want me to tell you how to sell more books, what's your problem with your website or book cover. But these are just common mistakes that almost all authors make that are struggling with. So you need to kind of fix these before you even think about marketing or promotion or advertising and things like that. I have so many free videos. They're free to watch. Take advantage, subscribe, and go through at least. There's some hit or miss ones, but there's a lot of like 1 or 2 hour value dumps, which are better than any paid course you can find on the internet. So it's worth accessing all of my free content. And if you need personal help or feedback, join the Guerrilla Publishing group or one of my courses to get a little bit more. Someone says a program, not a group. There's a free Guerrilla Publishing group on Facebook that you can join. It's got about 10,000 people in it. My program, which is an online course, has access to my private Facebook membership group where there's fewer people, so I have more time to give personal help and feedback. Anyway, number 7 of these 7 deadly sins is not enough books. So this is challenging depending on the genre. There are some genres where you can do fine with thrillers. You can write 1 or 2 good books. Oh, okay, thanks. Sorry, I misunderstood that comment. Someone was just letting me know they joined my program, which is awesome. I'm going to send out updates soon. This is like a last minute call to action to see who else wants to get in. I won't be relaunching this course possibly ever, but definitely not with these bonuses and the level of attention that you'll get right now. Number 7, not enough books. You can do okay with like one standalone thriller book or a standalone nonfiction book. Even for nonfiction, I'm really excited about getting a series. I'm going to do a series of nonfiction books about creativity next year so that I can use them as a longer funnel and build a platform, a new platform, build myself up as an expert for nonfiction faster and easier with books, with nonfiction books and advertising. So I'm excited about some of that stuff I'm going to do. But you can do okay with one book. It's just really difficult, and it's very difficult. It's much easier if you have more books. Not only because you get more experience. Every time you write a book, every time you publish, you're going to be getting more experience, which is going to make it easier as long as you're learning, as long as you're trying to figure out the mistakes and you're learning and you're getting better, which you can only do with testing if you're sending enough traffic. So if you've just published a book and it's not working, you got to figure out those problems. You got to learn why and fix it and experiment. But it's possible that you wrote a book that doesn't have a market, or you didn't position it to appeal to that market or attract that market, which is not really a fixable thing. You could still sell a lot, but it wouldn't really satisfy the readership, which is always going to be a problem. You will earn more money. Like the more people you satisfy with your books, the more money you will earn. It's not really a question of writing better books. It's writing a book with a bigger audience. That's kind of the secret to success. But you don't figure out how to write a good book the first time by writing a good book. You learn how to write a good book with a bad book. Like your first book's always going to be bad. You're always going to, with writing is a weird thing. You've probably seen the meme on Facebook where you always feel like you're getting worse, because the more you write, the better you're getting. So the more critical or judgmental you're getting, so you're always uncomfortable with your level, which is frustrating, but you have to be experienced enough to learn that your book wasn't good and how to fix it. I have another course that's a bestseller blueprint, which I think you can get for like $17. I'm going to be raising all my prices next year. Right now, I've just been they're sort of unfinished, or I'm not really confident. But there's a lot of value in there, and I do some things with fiction and nonfiction that nobody else has talked about yet, which will save you years and thousands of dollars in editing costs and services. So it's really worth learning some of the stuff I'm talking about when I talk about book writing. I'm really excited about that stuff, and I'll be putting out a book just on the craft of writing books sometime next year, pulling all this stuff together. I've learned a lot about writing this year because I'm really focused on producing more content this year. So you need to write more books to get better at writing better books. But also you need more books because the more books you have, the more you have kind of a value ladder, and the more books that you have out, the more money you can spend per lead to get people into your funnel. And there are other people with dozens of books out that convert really well who are spending lots and lots of money on advertising. So if you're just starting off, you probably can't afford to advertise your 1 or 2 books profitably. And also some things with fiction, a lot of readers prefer completed series and they won't start a book until the completed series is done. Box sets can do really well. This is a problem I've had. I've put out a lot of first books and I haven't finished any of them. I've learned a lot about writing and book marketing very quickly over the last couple of years, but I've never really been able to scale my platform to those big numbers because I have a lot of book ones with 500 reviews and then nothing else. So there's nowhere else for people to go, which means I also can't advertise profitably yet in a way that makes it competitive. But I will be able to, because this year I've been focusing on simplifying the process of writing good books so I can do it more often and finish high quality books faster. If you can learn those skills, it's very valuable, but learning to write good books probably will take you several years and several bad books. Or like one book that you revise for 10 years and you never finish and it becomes this pile of junk. Writing slowly is not the way to write a better book. You want to go through, I have another video somewhere on my editing process and my stages, but almost always the really good writing doesn't come until the very end of your revision stages. First, you're blocking out, what happens, why does it have to happen, what's the motivation, what are the stakes, you're increasing the conflict and the tension, the suspense, which is so important and so few authors get it right. I have videos on that on YouTube, so you should subscribe and watch all my videos. And for NaNoWriMo this year on the NaNoWriMo blog, I have a blog post about suspense and conflict, which are really good, valuable checklists that most people don't do. I edit a lot of books, and these are sort of advanced writing, but if you know that you should do them, you can just do them the first time and not spend years revising. Same with plotting. I'm a really heavy plotter. I have a 8 or 9 step guide called the Plot Dot, and I have a 24-step chapter outline for fiction, for commercial fiction, which are sort of brilliant, and you should go find because they will save you a lot of time and allow you to write a better book more quickly. But anyway, this is a long-term thing. If you just have one book out, I'm still getting better at writing, and there are books I want to write that I just can't, I can't write that well yet, but my main problem is not the writing. My writing is fine. My main problem is the motivation, the getting the work done, procrastination, not doing the work. That's actually, I have a book on, I have way too many projects that I don't finish. You might have noticed I'm definitely the ideas person, but I have a book on creative confidence that I've kind of outlined, which will talk about some of these issues. I have a background in literature and philosophy, so I love the deeper mysteries of creative production, and I'm excited to write more general nonfiction books rather than nuts and bolts book marketing stuff, which is what I've done in the past. So I got off topic. I've been on for a long time. It's 33 minutes. I'll probably sign off here because I got through my list, which were the 7 deadly sins. No obvious genre, not enough book reviews, your website isn't audience specific or clear, there's no call to action or order or welcome, so readers don't know where to go on your website, there's not enough blog posts or good content to attract readers on your website, you don't have the credibility, which is reviews or design usually, or you don't have enough books. So there are a lot more, but I have other videos talking about other big mistakes that authors make that you can look for. And I have a video I just posted, which is the one big thing, which was your book either converts or it doesn't. If you have a book that converts, which means you send the right audience to them and they buy it and they like it, that's amazing, but it's rare and it takes work and effort, or at least education, to learn how to put that kind of a package together. You got to get enough reviews, but the number one thing is just conversion. So that includes the blurb and the reviews and the book cover. It's not necessarily easy or cheap to get all those right, but they are critical. So you have to get them right if you want people to read your books. But once you've got them right, then it's a matter of scaling profitably. So it means bringing in new readers to your funnel or getting in front of new readers and getting them to buy the book, and spending less than you're making. This is the other thing that most authors never get to, which is most authors, even if they're doing everything right, they're losing money publishing their books, or they're not taking account of opportunity costs. So a lot of people will budget. They'll say, "Oh, I spent $2,000 on my book launch and I made $2,500, so I profited." But they're not counting the hundreds and hundreds of hours of time spent writing and revising the book, or learning about craft, or learning about book marketing and stuff. You also have to be taking advantage of your time and figuring out how you can produce better quality content without spinning your wheels or wasting your time, or just procrastinating. So this is a different topic entirely, but I have found the things that I need to do are not only dangerous in themselves. The real danger is I don't want to do them, so I procrastinate instead. So like I say, today I'm gonna do this thing, and I'll procrastinate for like 10 hours because I don't want to do that thing. I could do that thing, I know how to, but I have this like passionate dread, overwhelming dread of the thing itself. Those are definitely the things you want to outsource early, because they will kill so many hours of productivity just because you don't feel like doing them. So be really aware of like how you feel about stuff. You can't necessarily force yourself through the things you feel badly about. It's really a matter of paying attention to where your energy goes and why you feel good about something and bad about some things. Although I will also caution you against just following your passion, because a lot of other people will say, well, writing is fun. I write for fun. I don't care about the marketing. So I'm not going to do the marketing or the revision or the editing because that's not fun. That doesn't feel good. I only want to write the first draft. That's not a good position to be in either, because you will need to do the hard things that you need to do for growth and for education. They will always be hard at first if you don't know what you're doing. Everything new is hard and scary, but you have to kind of do them anyway to learn. This has kind of been a growth year for me. So I've been learning a lot, and it's been really hard and frustrating, but it's super valuable for what I'm going to be able to start doing next year. It also means I'm about a year behind in all of my goals, but that's because you can't set clear goals when you don't know what you're doing. If you're doing something new and you haven't done it before, you won't be able to set proper projections for how fast it takes you to do things. So it's fine for me if I miss those goals, because it's taking longer than I expected, because when I set those goals, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how long it was going to take. So 2 kind of bonus tips are: pay attention to where your energy is going. Don't, like, if you're procrastinating against something that you don't want to do, find a way to outsource it, or just don't do it. Just cross off your list and do something else less difficult. That might be good advice. I'm not entirely sure if it is. Sometimes I'm not sure if what I'm saying is good advice, but anyway. And the other one I mentioned, I've forgotten already because I've been talking for a long time. Anyway, those are the 7 common problems that most authors face. I'll just put them down below in the comments so that you have a checklist, because I know I tend to ramble. If you want to join the free Guerrilla Publishing group on Facebook, you should do that. I also have a Guerrilla Publishing book and a workbook you can download, and some emails. And then there's an opportunity to join the Guerrilla Publishing course at some price point with some bonuses. But next year, I'm basically going to be taking a year off and only working on my own books, and also really focusing on scaling my platform with advertising, because I do have profitable products that can scale, but I've been really afraid to scale them because that's a whole different thing I haven't gotten into yet. But it's also really exciting because I can basically go from nowhere to having a lot of followers or income or platform, mostly passive income, by scaling up with ads and quitting all of the stuff that was taking away my time and effort, and really focusing on my own personal products like books and courses and things like that. I'm not that interested in the courses. I'm much more interested in the books themselves, but the courses can be a nice value add so that it's easier to spend money advertising the books, because some people are also buying courses. So that's one of the reasons that I do it. And it's a nice thing for nonfiction people. Even for fiction, you can have little bonuses or something to do kind of an order bump, or to justify the ad cost a little bit more. Hope this helped you. If you're a new author, definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel, where I mumble at a pace, as someone accused me of in a comment recently. You might like it. Sometimes I say really smart things. Otherwise, follow me on Creativity or join the Guerrilla Publishing Facebook group, where I talk more about book marketing stuff. There is the opportunity to join my Guerrilla Publishing group at a big discount and get a bonus, which is I will do a free first chapter critique of your book, which I very rarely do editing for people anymore. But if that sounds interesting to you, I'll leave a link down below for that as well. Bye-bye.